goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy spaghetti's fur flies and jet wash dreams, yeah. Chasing smoke whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin all tangled in place, yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail. In the circus of the sky, they never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy Spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, they zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a 2D smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shotty's on sticks, Teddy's on paws. Side by side, legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen, over couch scale terrain. Backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz fuel fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah, yo, Shotty behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive. Teddy push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in, Teddy. Yeah, let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind, Teddy. Yep, yeah. CiottiFPV, Teddy Spaghetti, diamond and duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a 2D smile. Teddy Spaghetti, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a 2D smile. Yeah, when you hear that bar cut the rotor hum, you know Ciotty and Teddy's mission's just begun. FPVs, fur-faced legends, legends singing loud. Yeah, Teddy Spaghetti and CiottiFPV, always proud.
Evening, friends. My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. That intro song puts me in a much more chill mood. It just makes me want to, like, hang and relax with you guys and just learn some shit, you know? Doesn't get me all fired up like the old song. The old song will be back at some point, but boy, I'm digging I'm digging that AI-generated intro song. I hope you guys appreciate my sacrifice of getting absolutely obliterated by mosquitoes yesterday at Patrick's to get a whole bunch of really cool flight footage for you. That was the Grinderino with the Gemfan 3630 propellers. The twitching is the ESC failing, I believe. Oh, that's nice. Can't delete it. And then the pauses are because I'm pulling it. The quad is plugged in. I didn't pull those files to the hard drive, and so totally normal. Sorry if it made you think your YouTube was wigging out. Always, if YouTube wigs out, it'll always give you a little wheelie bit. Maybe not always. Sometimes it'll give you whatever. GemFan 3630s. Right at the end there, I did a little bit of durability testing with them. Patrick had that giant cardboard box that we then lit on fire. And so I figured, hey, it's a cardboard box. Let's see what happens when you absolutely clatter into it at full stankonia. And so I slammed into it 4 times. The props were totally cool until the 4th time. The 4th time I hit the box a little high, and the rear props and motors just smashed into the corner of the cardboard, and that bent both of the rear props. I did bend them back. They were still flyable. I did bend them back, and it seemed pretty okay. So yeah, GemFan 3630s are my new favorite 3-inch M5 mount propeller. I didn't get a chance to test the HQ 3.5 by 2.9, I believe they are, by 3s. But just looking at those propellers compared to these propellers, I don't think they have more pitch. This Grinderino is on X-Nova 1804 3500 kV motors. These are my favorite micro motors of all time, but 3500 kV is a little bit too low. So I used to run them on 3-inch props, the T-Motor 3140s, and they're okay. They're not great, though. You put them onto a 3.5-inch prop, even the lower pitch 3.5-inch props, and they're a lot better. And now we've got these 2 new higher pitch 3.5-inch props, and they really wake these motors up. This Grinderino flies beautiful. It's fat. It's like 310 grams, I think, all up. Let me see. It is a heavy, heavy, heavy build. But it's super strong. These motors absolutely rock. And it's a blast to fly. It's got a O3 air unit in it. 20 by 20 stack. So there's I haven't really done anything to make this thing lightweight. It's all off the shelf stuff. There's no weird tricks. There's no 25 by 25 AIO in there to try to bring the weight down, but sacrifice flight characteristics and just general serviceability. So this is a full weight Grinderino. It doesn't have big chunks of TPU all over it. I haven't specifically made it heavy, but I also really haven't done anything to make it lightweight. 1804 is a big boy motor. And so this guy is heavy. Let me let me play the rest of this for you, and then I'm going to delete this flight footage because it's not great, and it's a little bit underexposed. Here's me showing some of the damage to the box. So it was just a giant Amazon box. It's so funny. It's exactly what you would expect to see. You can see where the motors hit, and then you can see where the prop nuts, where it swings up, and the prop nuts slams into the cardboard. It's pretty funny. So here's the second battery. This battery kind of sucks because it had gotten too dark. In the goggles, it looked fine. Yet again, I need to bring the brightness down in these goddamn goggles. Because, yeah, in the goggles, I could see where I was flying, but now, looking at this, I'm there's no way I was flying through that. That's just pitch black, So the brightness is still a little too low in these goggles. Sorry, a little too high in these goggles. So let me fix that real quick. It's just right here on the top menu. Brightness, down, down. I'm going to go all the way down, I think, with the brightness. It was 2 notches up. So it comes from the factory 3 notches up. It looks like I'd moved it 1 notch down. Well, I'm going to move it 1 more notch down. No, I'm going to go 2 notch. Yeah, 1 more notch down. And hopefully that's enough. What's enhanced display? What the hell is that? That's weird. All right, cool. So now I got these goggles dimmed down even farther. I really wish there was a little histogram in these. I wish that when the rig first turned on for the first 10 seconds or something, or just put a little button on top where you can turn a histogram on so that you can actually nail the exposure. Because look, this is black. That's just black, 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 black. I couldn't have been flying through that. There's absolutely no way. I guess I just need to remember that I need to overexpose the 03 a little bit. So, yeah. What I will say is that this was the first time that I had set it to auto ISO, and I let the ISO move between 100 and 800, and it was way better. So definitely like some progress here with these 03 builds. I didn't bring the Siren F3. I just brought the Grinderino because I really wanted to test these propellers. And so yeah, I'm getting closer to having these things dialed in. I think I'm pretty much there with making the goggles a little bit less bright. And yeah, it was totally flyable. Like I was able to fly it really confidently. I didn't have these situations where I was coming down and feeling like kind of blind. And so I was flying the Grinderino a lot better yesterday. It was also nice to have more power. These 3630 props were really cranking. I was really happy with them. And they're way more durable than the older 3525, I think they are, Gemfan props. You can just see it. Those old Gemfan props have really thin blades. The HQ 3.5s, 3.5 by 2.9, I think they are. They look like they're going to be a little bit more durable. Here, I'll show you. They look like they're going to be a little more durable, but I don't think they're going to be as durable as these 3630s. So here's the Gemfans, here's the HQs, and here are the 3630s. All right, cool. So I'm just going to keep letting this kind of play, even though it's awful dark, because I'm just kind of talking through it. So let me grab 3 propellers. I'm going to grab a 3630 left side high here. Ooh, we can weigh these props too. The weight of the propeller is almost always directly related to the durability. And so I know weighing the propeller sounds like a weird thing, but it actually makes a lot of sense. There we go. So now I can delete that because there's really nothing else on there. And I wasn't flying spectacularly or anything like that. Okay, move to trash. So that was from the onboard 03 storage. I might have had a memory card in there. I no longer have a memory card in there. But apparently the 03 has a good amount of internal storage because that recorded 2 full batteries, 2.5 full batteries. I did fly a 3rd battery on there, which is a broken file. So I have a feeling that the storage filled up. So yeah, I need to get a memory card in there. But it's really nice that there is some internal storage. What do I want to do? Eject? Yeah, I want to eject it, and now I can unplug it. All right, so here we go. I want a HQ prop. Oh, so yeah, I was close. 3.5 by 2.8 by 3 are the HQs. Realistically, for a sturdy, real sturdy 3.5-inch build, these are the 3 props that you want to run. I kind of think you want to stick with the Gemfan 3630s and the HQ 2.8s. So these are Gemfan. These Gemfans are good. These are the best that we used to have. 3525. I was right. Yeah, these Gemfan 3525s are okay, but 25 pitch is a little low, and they're just a little flimsy. They're, like that on purpose. I think these are more of like a toothpick 3.5-inch prop. As an example, they're probably going to be the lightest of the 3. This guy is coming in at 1.7 grams, the Gemfan 3525. The HQ is probably going to be a little bit heavier, sure enough. 1.8 grams for the HQ. And then the Gemfan 3630 is going to be the heaviest. Oh, yeah. 2.2 grams. So big difference up to this 3630, but look at it. You can just see that this thing is going to be more durable. Ready? Like, it's just super obvious which of these 3 props is going to be the most durable. The Gemfan 3525 is used and abused, right? Super obvious. Like, this is the durable propeller. And like, one of the problems that we have with all of these micro props is none of them are really durable enough. This style of Gemfan prop with this really like three-dimensional blade design, these are typically really durable. It's very similar to their 5-inch props, and their 5-inch props are really durable. And so, yeah, the most flimsy but the lightest, Gemfan 3525, probably one step up, but more pitchy. So I would recommend this one anyway. HQ 3.5 by 2.8 by 3. And then really, I think this is the winner. It is going to depend on what motor you're running, though. On an 1804 3500 kV motor, hands down, this is the one. If you're running a lighter motor, like if you're running a 1404, you're going to want to be here. You're not going to be able to run this because this is M5 mount only. These two are both the convertible, T-mount or M5 mount. So yeah, this HQ prop is probably really good, but I mean, I can just kind of tell looking at it. Yeah, I mean, like, this is not going to be as durable as this guy. Know what I'm saying? I'm still going to try these for sure. But this is well balanced and it's really durable and it has a little bit more pitch than this does. And you can probably also kind of see the pitch. Let me take the, let me grab the quad here. So we want high left. So if we compare these two, we can probably see the difference in pitch here as well. But like just the blade, like the difference in the blade profiles, which one of those blades do you think is going to make more thrust, right? Pretty fucking obvious. But if we do look down them at the angle of attack on the blade, I'm going to try to get these somewhat even. Well, come on, focus, bitch. There you go. They look very similar. It actually does look like the HQ might have a little bit more blade angle to it, but the blade is much thinner. And so the problem I can almost guarantee you're going to run into with the HQ is a durability problem. I'm going to try them. I'm going to take a look at the RPMs that they turn, which is a really good clue as to which one has more pitch. And I'm going to feel which one seems to kind of make more power. And then I'm going to end up running the Gemfan 3630 because it's more durable anyway. It is truly 3.6 inches, though. It barely fits on this Grinderino. I had to melt away a little bit of the camera mount here to get one of the propellers to clear. See that kind of ugliness on the outside there? I just had to clearance that. I mean, it's totally fine. For some reason, I didn't have to do it on this side, but, like, look at it. It is, like, just so close. So, yeah, kind of annoying that it's a 3.6, but the Grinderino is one of the more popular 3.5-inch frames, and it does clear it with just a little bit of love. If you're using a different... this is the camera mount that I believe it's Metal Dirt Skin created. If you're using a camera mount that is a little bit thinner, you're not gonna have to worry about that. But his is not like extra thick in that spot or anything like that. That's what she said. This build is 227 grams dry, and then I fly it on 4S 850s, which are 80 grams. But let's just double check that, because I got to get these batteries out anyway. And so here's a GNB 4S 850, 332 grams. As I said, this is a heavy build. Big boy motors, big props, big strong frame. But what I love about this build is that it's heavy. A 3.5-inch propeller build that's 250 grams flies like a friggin' toothpick. It's got no throw. It's not fun to me. This is it. Like, this is the way to go. This is the right all-up weight for a 3.5-inch propeller rig. This thing flies so balanced. It's got plenty of power. It's got a bunch of throw. It's really durable. Like this, I will admit, it drives me completely insane that on the front of the frame here, they've gone with a design on the top plate that looks really cool, but it shows up in the flight footage. I wish instead of this angle being in this direction, that they'd done it like all the other frames and made it in this direction, because then you wouldn't have top plate in view. This camera mount pushes the camera the O3 as far forward as you can. I'm also running the O3 in wide, not super wide, and I still have a little bit of the top plate in view. I think the next time I have to pull this thing apart, I think I'm just gonna hit this top plate with the Dremel and just create the angle that it should have anyway, that all the other frames have. It is going to weaken the top plate. Like, I wish that they'd done it the other way so that there was more meat out here and less meat on the inside, because then the top plate would be stronger. But it was a decision, I have a feeling, that was made for fashion over function, let's say. And the frame does look really cool, and it does sit on your shelf more than it flies. So, but yeah, it's pretty much impossible to get the top plate out of view, which, I don't know, that's something that some people don't mind. Some people actually say that they like it, because it like reminds you that you're flying a quad. For me, it just drives me insane. Like, you've got the props in view anyway, but the props are at least like kind of translucent, right? The top plate in view, it just kind of looks wrong. Can you just crop it out? Of course, but these are already not like super high quality cameras, and so the more pixels that we crop out, the worse that situation gets, right? But other than that, this frame is absolutely awesome. It took some half decent hits yesterday. None of the screws are rattling out. The arms are totally fine. Every time after you fly, grab your rig from the corners, hold it like this initially so that you can wrap your fingers around the props like this, put both thumbs in the middle, and bend it. And what you're trying to see is one arm starting to delaminate? Is one arm weaker than the other? And then rotate it and do it again. And so you've got 4 arms, you've got 4 opportunities to feel. If you really want to be pedantic, keep rotating it, because your dominant hand is probably going to be stronger. What you're looking for is one arm weaker than the others, and then you can replace that arm because it's potentially starting to delaminate. And then if you really want to test it, check them in the rotational direction. Grab the motors like this and twist. Sometimes arms will be strong in the one dimension, but weak in the other dimension. And so grab the motor bells and twist, 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 swap, twist, 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 twist. And what you're trying to do is find an arm that's delaminating before it delaminates on the concrete and take something else with it. I try to do that like when I crash. If I have to take the walk of shame, I'll go out to it, check the arms real quick. It takes, 8 seconds. While I'm walking back, put it down, fly it some more. There you go. 03 Grinderino, really, really fun. This is such a nice combination. The star of the show, though, are these X-Nova 1804 3500s. They're just so good. They are. They've got a 3mm motor shaft, so they're super durable. They're M5 nut, so you don't have to screw around with T-mount. You just use a big boy wrench, pop the props off really easily. These propellers, these Gemfan 3630s, are strong enough that it seems like you can bend them back straight and not get all kinds of jello. I'll let you know next time I fly it. In the middle of the day, right? That was super low light, so jello is not really going to show up. This propeller is still a little bit bent, and I'm gonna kind of leave it like that because I want to see how bad I want to see if the jello kind of shows up. I meant to fly this during the day today, but I had a weird, crazy day. Not weird bad, just weird busy. So yeah, one of these blades is definitely a little high. Another one is actually a little bit low. So, yeah, I'll fly this thing maybe tomorrow after I get back from the No Kings rally and or protest rather, and we'll see if there's any jello in the middle of the day. Speaking of, please go to the No Kings protests tomorrow. It ain't gonna get better if we just don't do anything, right? Like, they're just gonna keep demolishing democracy and making every single one of our lives significantly worse. You know, as basically an artist, I'm gonna be one of the ones that gets hit pretty fucking hard. Luckily, you know, I'm a white straight guy, but still, you know, all of our lives are being made significantly worse every single day. So get your asses out there and just be a body in a sea of people that are saying, like, fucking stop this shit, or we're going to riot and fix the situation our goddamn selves. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that, right? Like, we're being peaceful as long as we possibly can because that's what we are as, you know, lefties and liberals. But, you know, if you push us far enough, we're going to come out swinging. I sincerely hope it doesn't come to that. Unfortunately, you know, that's the story that they're already spinning before we've even had a chance to make it truthful. So, again, hopefully it doesn't come to that. But, you know, we'll do what we got to do as human beings. You keep fucking deporting people that don't need to be deported and just generally beating on people and making all of our lives worse, and eventually we're going to get pissed. So, we're already pretty pissed, but we're being extremely civil because that's what we do. That's what we've always done, right? So, get out tomorrow and show your support for hopefully less stupidity and greed and just gross stuff coming out of this regime. In the chat, FizzPV was first, BlitzFPV was next, McShaky, Tamava, Shankin, Sunny Days Footage, Uriel, P-Money, Sporny, Levster, Mad RC. Is that Madstech? Madstech's in the house. What's up, brother? He says, just remember to turn off the ISO limit. You'll find 04 Pro is dramatically better with DNR, which is dynamic noise reduction and exposure control. Yeah, the difference between... so I don't have any freestyle rigs on 04 Pro. I don't know if I ever will. For me, 04 Pro is a tool for work. It's not something for, like, fun, basically. It's a little expensive, essentially. An 04 Pro is a little bit too expensive for fun. I have 3 of them. They are all going on to working rigs. One of them is what I call the Avata-killer. It is a... it's actually right here. And I flew it a bunch yesterday on tri-blades. I did a little bit of tri-blade testing on this thing. So I flew this at Pride. I flew 2 batteries on this at Pride, once in the dark, and it blew me away by the low light performance. And then once during the day at the Pride Parade, the following day. And I had my 5 blades on it, the Gemfan D76 5 blades that I've flown on every single Cinewoop that I've ever built and flown professionally for the last almost 4 years. And so when I built this thing, this is just a Cinesplorer with 04 Pro. And, like, during the process of building this, I realized the weight was going to be really close to the Avata weight with the batteries that I fly, which are 4S, Tattoo R-Line version 1 4S 1050s. Halfway through the build, I realized that the weight was going to be really close to the Avata 2, so I started calling it the Avata-killer. It's got Gemini on board, so dual band 900 and 2.4 at the same time, and then it's got 04 Pro with the dual antennas. So, like, in theory, with Gemini, it's got better range. I don't even know if I have to say in theory. It just does have better range. than the Avata 2. It's got much better flight characteristics because it's on 2004 motors. And super safe, super chill, amazing, amazing, amazing thing to fly. I realized flying it at Pride, though, that the hover point was really low because it had 5-blade props. The 2004 motor with D76 propeller combo is something that I've dialed in over the years for my regular Cinesplores that are hauling around 120-something gram GoPro Hero 12s at /10/11, whatever. This doesn't need that. And so yesterday at Patrick's, I flew this on the T-motor Cinewoop tri-blades, and then these Gem Fan. What's Gem Fan call these? T76, I think? Oh no, D75S they call these. And boy, is it good on these tri-blades. A little bit more. The hover point just feels right, and it's a little bit more efficient with these tri-blades. And I had a blast flying this yesterday. The low light performance absolutely shocked me. This is so in the past like 5 days, I've flown this thing in 2 different low light scenarios, and I was absolutely blown away by how clean the 04 Pro is, even up at like 800 and 1600 ISO. That is very obviously where the benefit of 04 Pro lies versus a GoPro Hero 12, for example. 13 has the same sensor, so it's exactly the same. And so, yeah, I feel really comfortable. Usually I ISO limit to like, it depends on the camera, but usually like 400, almost always, almost on almost any camera system. If you limit your ISO to 400 or set it at 400, it will not be all that noisy. 800 is where things start to get a little hairy. 1600 is usually asking too much from a little tiny camera. But the 04 Pro is a different story. It's a bigger sensor. DJI is just getting really good at making these things work really well in low light. And so that's what Ian is talking about. Ian, thanks for swinging by, brother. Always awesome to have you. If you guys aren't subscribed to Mads Tech, what's wrong with you? Ian's doing God's work over there, man. Which is great because a lack of Joshua Bardwell is, hurting all of us. And so, luckily we've got Ian to pick up the slack of all that juicy technical stuff that I'm too dumb to figure out on my own. So yeah, super impressive. This duct is off. So this is the problem with this build. 04 Pro in the back here, every single time I have to get to the bind button, which is luckily not often, but every single time I want to get the memory card out, I have to take this duct off. It's only 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, but the screw inserts are gonna like eventually strip out, and it's just annoying. It's super annoying to have to pull the duct off to get the memory card out. That I tongue-in-cheek call this the Avata-killer. The Avata 2 is one of the most incredible pieces of tech that I've ever seen. It is just mind-blowing how good it is. Realistically, especially because you can adjust the up tilt on the fly, the Avata 2 is the best Cinewoop that there is, and it probably will always be. If we built something like, yes, we could build something like this with Josh Medlin's adjustable up tilt, but now we're way over 400 grams, right? Like this is exactly at 400 grams. It gets 7 to 8 minutes of runtime now on the tri-blades. And it's really good, and it's serviceable, and it's got better flight performance from the bigger motors. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of ways that this is better than the Avata 2. And there's certain scenarios, Like, if you got to fly it really hard, if you want to fly a Cinewhoop like this and you got to fly it really hard, the Avata 2 is going to fall on its face eventually. It's not going to have the flight performance that this does, but boy, it has shockingly good flight performance for what it is, and it's got all the other stuff built in, right? The fancy, like, return to home or freeze in place, you know, all the built-in DJI stuff. So, like, realistically, the Avata 2, like, if you're like, all right, I'm going to start doing professional Cinewhoop work, it's kind of the Avata. For like 99% of people, the Avata 2 is the right thing to buy, which is absolutely maddening. Although, I've got an 04 Pro. This is the first 04 Pro that I ever put in, and it was installed in that build. That the memory card slot just doesn't work. I've tried everything. It just doesn't recognize memory cards when you put them in there. And DJI is not accepting repairs from America right now. So the Avata 2 actually is not the way to go, because if you break it, you're fucked. There's probably a company in the US that'll fix it, but it's going to cost a fortune to fix it, right? So that's actually, now that I think about it, that's a big ding on the Avata 2. I don't know what to do with this. I'm stuck with this. I guess I just wait and hope that, I don't know. I'm not happy about this. It's $260 gone. Today the RDQ order arrived with the GEP-RC 1002 25,000 kV motors. And so I did 1S 75mm rig testing. On this build, it had the Cloud Hopper hand-wound 802 RSs that he hand-wound to 36,000 kV. In my testing, they were similar to the 33,000 kV Tiny Whoop Emopteras. And so I ran this build on these, which were what was on it. And then so 3 identical batteries. Ran it there, and then I ran the Tree Topper build, same exact build, different colors, and then I swapped the GEP-RC motors over to this. So either like Sunday or Monday or at the latest Wednesday, I've got the flight footage from these 3 setups, and we're going to talk about 1S 75mm rigs. The GEP-RC motors are really good. That's all I'm going to say. They're really, really good. So that's coming up. That'll be fun. That footage is all on the HD0 goggles. I was doing that literally right before the live stream started. I think the stream was like a minute late. It's 100% because I wanted to get this done. I was just dying to know. I was dying to know how the GEP-RC motors were. If you already have the Tree Toppers, I don't necessarily know if you have to like run out and buy these. But if you were thinking about buying the Tree Toppers, hold off. Because those GEP-RC motors are awesome, and they are back in stock at RDQ. Hey, also, I finally got a good bit of info off of an FPV Facebook group. I don't know who said it or which group it was in, but somebody was complaining about these GemFan 2023 S props being a little bit loose on their motors and flying off every once in a while. And I've had that issue as well. That's what they do on the Happy Model 1103 11,000 kV motors. I've had limited success with my normal method of taking your sharp-tipped tweezers, going into the hole at a 45-degree angle, and scraping around in a circle. What you're doing is you're pushing into the plastic, and so you're going to push a bit of the plastic down, but then to the left and right of it, like what I'm trying to show you with my hand here, the plastic is going to raise up. And that'll make most props, other than these, fit a little bit better and not fly off anymore. For whatever reason, that does not work on these props. Somebody on a Facebook group said, I've just been taking M1.7 screws and running them down the inside, and they do that same thing. They dig in and then lift the plastic up, but they do it much better than the sharp-tipped tweezers. I just happen to have an entire bag of M1.7 by 10s. By 10 is like kind of the perfect length, because it's not too short where it's a pain in the ass, and it's long enough to go all the way through the prop. And so on my Etsy store, I'm going to start selling 1.5 millimeter propeller hole tighteners. That's the only name I can think of for these. So yeah, if you're having an issue with some 1.5 millimeter inner diameter props flying off, I've got a whole bag of solutions for you. And it's super easy. You just thread it into the bottom. It's actually really nice. You get it threaded into the bottom. It self-centers itself. And then you do like one full turn, and then you take it out and you see how much better it fits. If it doesn't fit tight enough, you do 2 full turns, take the screw out, and this way you don't... I made the mistake on this one, actually, where I sent the screw all the way through the damn thing, and it threaded the entire inside, and then this prop was way too tight. It was almost impossible to get off the motor. So, yeah, you don't run it all the way through there. You just do it a little bit at a time. You could even... It might even be a better idea to do it on the top of the propeller. If you run the screw down the top of the propeller, it'll slide all the way down the motor shaft until that last little bit, and then it'll kind of tighten up. You could look at it. That wouldn't be as secure, because if it manages to lift up on the motor shaft a little bit over that threaded part, it's then just going to fly off. But you do you. Do it however you want. But yeah, 1.5 millimeter prop tighteners. I got a whole bag of them, and I didn't even know it. I forgot to mention that on Monday's stream. So yeah, if you give it a few years, eventually there's some good FPV info on Facebook. Boys, they're not much though. It's more than 50% bad info. I put a memory card into the computer. Oh, I put a memory card into the computer from the Avata-killer. Here is... Oh, there's all kinds of flight footage on here. What? Well, okay. This is the Avata-killer. So it's in 4x3, 4K 60? Or is it 120? Let's take a quick look. So I'm just looking at it here. Hold on. Let's open it up in INA. And then let's get up in the air and get cruising. This thing is kind of fun to fly. The camera mount... is from Brain 3D, and it doesn't let me get quite enough up tilt. I want a little bit more up tilt on this. It's, at the moment, it's probably only like maybe 10, maybe 15 degrees up tilt. It needs 20 or 25 because it's a Cinewhoop and it's got the big, tall ducts. Although, you could argue that it's a Cinewhoop and you actually want no up tilt. But for flying it like this, I would definitely want more up tilt. And so let's see, we're going to go to half speed, 50%, and now we're going to go to 25%. Okay, so this is 60 frames. This is 4K 60 because there's gaps between these frames. So yeah, this is 4K 60. This is the Avata-killer. I'm flying it on a 4S 850 mAh battery, and it's kind of a shitty battery. It's these old Beta FPV 4S 850s they're the batteries that I just kind of beat on when I'm just doing shit like this. I'm not, working. I'm just kind of dialing it in or whatever. So yeah, just kind of whopping around. This is the 04 Pro just being insanely good. Like, it's not overexposed up above the trees there, and then down here, again, my goggles were set too bright. And so it is a little bit underexposed here under the trees. It did not look this dark in the goggles. I've now got the goggle brightness turned down one more notch. That should help me get them dialed in a little bit better for the next time I do this. So yeah, this is the Avata-killer. I'll just kind of let this run for a little bit here while I get caught up on chat. Dan Terrible says, good evening. Uriel says, I'm Wheelie. P-Money says, liking the intro tunes. Uriel says, I'm here, but not so long. I have tomorrow a mission from God, half an hour support. CiottiFPV.com is where you guys can support me. If you like these live streams, I rely 100% on you guys to keep these things going. This way, when I review stuff, you don't have to think like, oh, is he reviewing it a little bit soft because he wants that company to send him more stuff? Nope. You guys pay for the stuff, and so when I review it totally honestly. This way you never have to kind of worry about that or think about that. It also gives me the freedom to review whatever I want. I don't review the stuff that, you know, each and everything that gets sent to me. I review the stuff that I want to review. And so I'm not just reviewing slop, basically. So yeah, Patreon is the best way to support me, and you get the most benefits. But there's lots of other things that you can do. You can buy yourself some stuff for my Etsy store. I have all kinds of good stuff on the Etsy store. There's a Fiverr page where you can work one-on-one with me if you really want to learn stuff quick, or dial in a build, or learn to tune, or learn to fly better. There's a Teespring store where you can get some fun apparel. And then there's a whole bunch of affiliate links. You might as well just change your bookmarks over to the affiliate links, because you have to hit them over and over and over again. They expire every time you check out, and usually, like, when your cookies clear out, they'll wipe. And some of these websites also have like a 2-week time period that'll wipe the affiliate links out. So change your bookmarks to someone that you want to support here on YouTube's affiliate links, and we'll keep making fun content for you to watch. So that was just a quick one there. Here's some more from it. You know, I'm going to skip through this, and we're going to go right to the juicy stuff. Where's the juicy stuff? Here it is. There's Patrick. Here's the juicy stuff. Here's what you shouldn't do with your $400+ build. I think this is now in... Nope, this is still in 60. This is 4K 60. And I'd been dying to do this. Last time I was here, I flew a bunch of Tiny Whoop batteries through the bonfire, and for some reason the HD Zero goggles didn't record anything at all. And so I've been dying to do it again, and it is way cooler in HD than in analog. And so and also this highlights A, how good the O4 Pro is in low light, but B, how annoying it is to have your FPV view be the same as your HD view. I am flying in darkness like this, so I can't go anywhere else other than like right here. If I was flying this on my regular Cinewhoop, I would have the Hero 12 Black set to expose the fire properly, but then my FPV camera would be cranking the ISO up to the friggin' moon, and so I would have been able to fly around more. Well, the GoPro would have just captured like black through the rest of the yard, so on one hand it kind of doesn't matter, but where it does matter is from like a safety perspective. Like, I need to not hit something when I'm flying in the dark to set up a cool line towards the thing that I'm maybe flying through. So yeah, this is an inherent problem with your the split camera setup, where your FPV and your HD is all in the same thing. If you want to fly in the dark and expose something that's bright, like a concert stage, like a fire, you're forced to fly a little sketchy, where like when you turn away from the stage or away from the fire, in your goggles it's just black. And so yeah, that like, I don't think we'll ever see full-blown Cinewhoops like fully go away that are carrying a second camera. You could maybe do like a dual kind of setup where the O4 Pro is like mounted up on top or something like that, but then you got to worry about like durability and any weirdness there. But other than that, man, like, and that's, boy, the O4 Pro is good. And like, this is totally flyable, and I just stay away from the totally dark areas, and like, they're totally black anyway, so like, why bother flying through them? You know, there are subtle reasons, but still. An O4 Pro only build is damn good. Way better than I thought. And like, I could have turned the ISO up another notch and gotten a little bit more brightness out here in the trees. The problem with doing that is that it would have made the fire more overexposed. This fire is already a little bit overexposed. if you want to get fire looking really good, you underexpose a little bit more here so that this white in the middle becomes orange. When a fire becomes overexposed, you lose the yellow and the orange and you just get white. The slow-mo guys talk about this a lot, like how to properly expose fire. And it's really difficult because you kind of have to pick. Does the center of the fire look really good? Or does the tips of the fire? And in this case, we've got a scenario where like the tips of the fire, the little like licks of flame out here, they're properly exposed and they look really good. But then we've lost all this, right? There's no information here in the center of this flame. Underexposed a little bit more, you would still have detail in like the little fingers and the little licks of the fire here, but then the center would be more yellow, and it would look a little bit better. But you know, this was already a little bit sketchy, right? Like this was already total black. If I had underexposed this anymore, I would have felt even more kind of uncomfortable. But again, in the goggles, it was a little bit brighter than this, so I maybe could have underexposed this a little bit more. But yeah, that's just one of the things that you're going to deal with a split camera HD solution all-in-one kind of setup. So yeah, that's what it looks like when you fly through a bonfire with a 04 Pro. Super fun. Nothing got hurt. Everything was cool to the touch. Yeah, see, look, like I had enough light to do that. I thought those throws up over it would look cooler than... Well, maybe they'll look cool in... I didn't do a very good job keeping the fire centered, though, when I was doing it. But maybe they'll look cooler slowed down now. I needed to throw it earlier. I needed to be, like, full throttle now. I was doing it a little bit... I was throwing it up over a little bit too late. I'm also getting used to flying this thing. I'm used to the Cinewhoops with a Hero 12 on them that are a lot heavier and have a lot more mass and momentum. So I got to get used to flying this thing. That would actually be really fun to do with a freestyle build. There's really no reason to do that with a Cinewhoop. A freestyle build would be more cool to fling up over a big bonfire like that. Patchy Smoke Weed and Sniper says, "Hiya!" Nope, he says, CiottiFPV and Gangligan, how you doing? Did you see the picture of the frame T-Hobby gave me? It's aluminum 3D printed frame. I did not. Where's that picture at? I'm assuming that you talked to someone over at T-Hobby about me, though, because one of their marketing people messaged me on Instagram. So thank you for that, Apache Smoke. Very, very cool of you. FizzPV says, civil disobedience is only the first level of response. Indeed it is. It gets much more hairy from here. So hopefully, again, we don't have to do that, but we certainly will if they keep, shitting all over us. Sunny Days Footage 38 says, have you found a lower angle camera canopy for the Runcam Nano 3 or BeeEye camera? One of the reasons that I love the... Where have all the tiny whoops gone? Where the hell? What are the... By the way, tonight we're going to be troubleshooting some video problems on my 5-inch builds. One of the reasons that I love these old school Mobula 6 canopies is that they have adjustable up tilt, and you can put the up tilt really, really low. I've got my up tilt on these at like maybe 10 degrees, maybe a little bit less than that. So yeah, my absolute favorite camera canopy setup on these tiny whoops is the old school Mobula 6 canopy with the Runcam Nano 3. You can run super low up tilt and it's just super awesome. There aren't many Nano 3. If you want zero up tilt, you can run the Cockroach V3 frame, which has the little hooks on it, and then you can either download the STL from my 3D printing text channel on my Discord, or if you want to support me so that I can keep doing these live streams, you can go on my Etsy store and you can buy what I call the Batwing mount. This little mount will do 0 degrees up tilt, or I have a 10 degree up tilt version of it. It sits on the front it locks into those little hooks, and then you can put damn near any camera in here. I have versions of these batwing mounts for regular 10mm diameter lens cameras, 04, or the Runcam Nano 3, which I have a build floating around here somewhere with. But yeah, if you're looking for 0 up to 10 degrees, or just, with the Mobula 6 canopy, you can do any degree, because it's adjustable. Got you covered. Only run 3D print, in my opinion, only run 3D printed canopies unless you absolutely have to. If there's a molded canopy option, like the Mobula 6 one, always do that. A molded canopy is going to be lighter than TPU and a lot stronger than TPU. And if they're properly designed, they'll pretty much be invincible. So do that. Flew these guys around a little bit at Patrick's last night too. Just a couple of quick batteries. I'm not even going to pull them off the card for this stream because I want to dive into the video troubleshooting. Denzel the Turbo says, Patrick does not look like I imagined. He's been on the stream a bunch. I'm surprised you haven't seen him before. Uriel767 says, can I rent garage? Empty. Nope. Patrick works out of that building. It's super cool. Benny Bravo says, thought on Baby Ratel 2 for low light. I don't remember ever running a Baby Ratel 2, but if you look up, if you can find a YouTube review of it where somebody's comparing it to any other camera, you'll get a good idea. I just don't know. I don't have any personal experience with it. Denzel says, Apache Smoke's frame is in Patreon Hangout. Nice. Oh my God, look at that. Only available in China. I don't know if I'm allowed to show that, but that's crazy looking. Fully aluminum, 3D printed. I'll be damned. Wonder if it's strong. All right. Let's troubleshoot some video. That's what we're here to do tonight. It's 8 o'clock too. We've jibber-jabbered for an entire hour. So I brought 2 5-inch rigs with me. Twiddle-dee and Twiddle-dum. I say that because I had problems with both of them. These are pretty straightforward-ish glide builds with a little bit of coolness sprinkled on top. This is the budget build. I've always had this one glide build that I put together absolutely as cheaply as possible. As an example of what you can do with, like, at the time, these are going back a couple years, at the time, like a $30 ESC and a $30 flight controller, cheap antenna, that kind of thing. And it's always been, like, remarkably good. This build has had an iFlight Mamba F722 Mini 20x20 flight controller up front forever. And I have just crashed the living shit out of this thing, and it's been totally fine. It looks like this camera plug made its way into the props. That kind of sucks. I need to fix that. I didn't realize that happened. But yeah, this Mamba flight controller has held up really, really well, surprisingly well. This thing has had a couple different ESCs, and right now it's got a Hack RC ESC in it that came from the FPV crate, and it's on its way out. It was starting to act a little bit funny last night, so this thing at some point here will need another ESC. But the biggest problem with it is that it's basically acting like there's no antenna connected to it whatsoever. So we're going to pull this thing apart real quick and just take a look at whether or not the U.F.L. has ripped off. This is going to be the super quick and easy fix, I think, tonight. This is also the ultra lightweight 5-inch build. The glide builds are always pretty lightweight. It's pretty easy to get a glide build with like a Session 5, an 80-gram camera, at like 600 grams all up. I moved this thing over to these really interesting AMAX Superleggera 2305 motors, and it came down significantly below 600 grams all up. So no camera, 352 grams with an 80 gram session 5. It's 425 grams. And then the batteries that I run this on are the Tattoo R-Line 6S 1050 version 1. The version 1 Tattoo R-Lines are a little bit lighter, and they still perform amazing. And so with one of these batteries, I'll get like 5 minutes of runtime if I'm not absolutely hammering the hell out of it. 592 grams all up. Really, really fun to fly this thing. Plenty of power from these motors. For me, I don't fly like big power motors. It's just kind of overkill, and it kills your throttle resolution. So yeah, the budget rig is also the super, super, super lightweight rig. This build here, very similar, but it's on like a proper Acon ES. It's not a budget build. Proper Acon 35 amp 30x30 ESC, Talon flight controller up front, Immersion RC Tramp VTX, all the stuff that I really like the best. Kind of janky antenna, but this had been on T-Motor F40 Pro 2s and then Pro 4s, which are my favorite motors. But someone, I mentioned on one chat a while ago, on one stream a while ago, that I prefer those T-Motor F40 Pro 4 2306 motors because they're under 30 grams, and no 2207s are that light. And somebody in the chat said, that's not true. The 533 2207s are sub 30 grams, just barely, but sub 30 grams. And I said, I'm not fucking buying it. And so I bought one of the Fly 33 motors, and they weren't quite under 30 grams. I think maybe they're sub 30 grams with no motor wire whatsoever. But I was really impressed by how lightweight they were. These are the lightest weight 2207s I've ever seen. It had been a bunch of years since I'd flown a 2207, and so I said, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to get 3 more. And so I swapped this thing over to 2207s. They're the heads-up FPV ones. They are 1950 kV, and I do have a motor limited down. I don't need all that RPM. And so this thing was flying totally fine. Yesterday I went to fly it, and there's just no video at all. No OSD, nothing. You plug it in, and it goes from static to just black screen. And so this is going to be the second rig that we work on, and we're going to talk about what that means. Matter of fact, let's talk about what that means right now. Let me give you a weight on this thing, though, as a comparison point between these two rigs. Same build, same frame. The only real thing that's different is the motors. This guy, there has to be something else different. 620 grams. Although those AMAX motors are extremely lightweight. I think they're like 23 grams a motor. Wow, it's a 7 gram difference. At least 7 gram difference. 7, 14, 21, 28. Wow, no, yeah, okay. This is the exact same build. The motors are just that much lighter. My God, they're not 23 grams. I think they're 24 grams. But yeah, still very lightweight. 620 grams all up is still very lightweight. I still fly it on 4.9 inch propellers, and it's a blast. I have absolutely no idea why all of a sudden it has no video. I tried a couple things, it didn't fix it. But whenever you're having video problems, what you want to do is just take a step back and relax. Stop just immediately jumping to conclusions and blaming it on Betaflight or some other weird random thing that it's definitely not. Just take a giant step back and think for a minute. So, I've got 2 rigs. Analog is almost always more problematic from a video perspective. And so analog is a perfect spot to talk about this. So I've got 2 analog builds. One of them has super shitty range. The other one has just no video at all. So let's talk about the super shitty range one first while I crack some of these screws, I guess. So, super shitty range. Can't have anything to do... So take a step back and think about the whole chain of events that happens here. Light goes through the lens of the camera into the sensor of the camera. The camera sensor turns that light into ones and zeros. It outputs that through the wire into the flight controller, into a pad, the video pad on the flight controller. Then there's a trace on the inside of the PCB of the flight controller that moves those ones and zeros with the video to the OSD chip. This is specific to analog. Digital does not do it that way. Analog uses a physical OSD chip, though, to overlay the actual OSD, right? And so for an analog rig, ones and zeros go through the trace. They go up into the OSD chip. The OSD chip puts a transparent layer on the front with all the OSD info. That OSD chip sends that video out through another trace to, if it's an AIO, to the chipset for the VTX on board. In this case, it sends it to a video out pad because this has a separate flight controller. The video out pad sends that video through a wire to a connector, usually, that's hooked up to your VTX. The VTX takes that video and amplifies it, puts it into the U.F.L. U.F.L. down the length of the antenna wire to the head of the antenna, through the air to your goggles. The goggles pick it up through the antenna, down through the SMA into your receiver module. Receiver module sends it into your goggles display it on the screen. I know that's kind of exhausting, but if every time you're having a video problem, you mentally go through that path, you will almost always troubleshoot that scenario better than if you just, oh, it's static, it must be this. Like, just don't do that. Just stop for a second, think of the whole path. It's going to help you so much with the troubleshoot. I promise. So, this build, shit range. Camera has nothing to do with it. Wire to the flight controller has nothing to do with it. OSD chip has nothing to do with it. Wire going back to the VTX has nothing to do with it. The video coming into the VTX is fine, because I can see when I fly in front of myself, it's fine. But then the VTX amplifies that video, sends it to the U.F.L. pad, U.F.L. pad into the antenna, up the antenna to the head of the antenna, and then through the air to your goggle antenna into your receiver. The receiver is also kind of like boosting the signal, and it's not really boosting the signal, but it's changing the signal. So, camera, flight controller, wire going to the VTX, we've ruled those out. I'd been flying other builds that weren't having any range problems, so the antennas on my goggles and my goggle module are fine, because I was flying other stuff. So if you only have one build that you're having range problems with, buy another rig. There's your excuse to buy another rig, because it's going to make the troubleshoot so much easier. Because the problem could have been a broken antenna on the goggles. It could have been a goggle module that's on its way out, right? It could have been a goggle-based problem. But as soon as you invite a friend over that brings their rig, or you buy a second rig and you fly it and you don't have range problems with that, you've ruled out your goggles, right? Makes sense? So we've very quickly and very accurately narrowed this problem down to either this antenna, the U.F.L. pad the U.F.L. port on the antenna, which is just a part of the antenna, and it's not really fixable, so the antenna, right, is potentially the problem, or the U.F.L. pad on the VTX, or the signal strength booster on the VTX, the thing that makes the milliwatts, whatever the hell that is. You can't really fix any of that shit. So if the antenna is broken, we're going to replace the antenna. If the VTX is blown up, we're going to replace the VTX. If the U.F.L. port, pad, whatever, on the VTX is broken, You could technically cut the UFL off of your antenna and direct solder the thing. So there's the potential for us to actually fix this, but probably not. And so at this point, you've taken your top plate off. What I would do is just swap the antenna out. It's like these antennas take such a beating. One of the things you can definitely do is flick your antenna and listen. You hear how that's not rattling? If I'd done that and it had gone flick and you'd hear some rattling in there, like there's maybe some broken plastic in there, that's your antenna being broken. These antennas have typically like 2 PCBs in them that are at a very specific distance, and they can't be like this, they can't be like that. They have to be like... Antennas have to be finely tuned. We beat the living hell out of these antennas. And so if you fly hard and you crash hard, you're going to break a lot of antennas. And when you break an antenna, it becomes out of tune, and it's basically not an antenna anymore. An antenna that's out of tune is almost as bad as having no antenna. And so like from an image perspective, from your VTX overheating perspective, it's actually a good thing to have an antenna that's out of tune rather than the antenna rips all the way off. VTXs will get really hot if there's no antenna whatsoever plugged into them. If there's at least an antenna plugged in that's been smashed to hell, it's going to help the VTX not explode. It's still not a good thing, but it's not as bad as if the entire antenna gets ripped off. So for this troubleshoot here, I just cut the zip tie off the antenna. I'm pretty much just going to replace this antenna because that's the easiest way to troubleshoot that, and like 90% of the time, that's the issue. When you're having range problems, it's almost always your antenna is broken. Either the head is broken, it might look broken, it might not, it's out of tune. Sometimes the wire can get mangled, sometimes the U.F.L. can get separated. What I'm going to check while I'm here, though, is the U.F.L. port. Because I'm right here and because I have to unplug the antenna anyway, this is your time to check that. So, it's back here. So this has a TBS Unify Pro, I think, that I got from the FPV crate. And that holds the U.F.L. on with this really nice, actually, little plate with a couple of screws on it. But there's a pretty sharp angle here on the antenna. The first thing I'm going to do, actually, is just pull on this antenna just a little bit, just to see if the antenna wire just pops right off. So let's rotate this around. It's actually a good sign that it's rotating like this. And see, so the wire is not just immediately popping off, so that's a good sign. So I'm going to pull these two guys off here. I'm going to pull these 2 screws. And I'm really tempted to just blame this VTX because I've had so many problems with TBS VTXs over the years. It really, there's like an ongoing joke about TBS VTXs where like every single time you power a TBS VTX up, you lose a couple milliwatts. And so like the more you use them, eventually like you've just used up all the milliwatts and they don't have any milliwatts left. And that could totally be the problem here. This VTX has been powered up and down a bunch of times, and so it might just be out of milliwatts. But, again, the antenna is almost always the problem when you're having range issues. And so we're going to very carefully pop this antenna off of here. Whenever you're dealing with U.F.L., you always want to be ridiculously careful because those U.F.L. ports can very easily rip off. And so now that I have this apart, now that I have this removed, I'm just going to use a little 5X loop here to look at the inside of the U.F.L. to make sure that the center pin is still there. And it is, I mean, it's not a pin on the antenna, it's like a little one of these. It's a pin on here. So you got a pin on here, and then the antenna kind of has this, and a lot of the snap that you feel is this little grabby bastard on the antenna, just boop over that pin. And so it looks totally fine. With these UFLs, it's really easy to get frustrated when you're trying to plug this in and mangle the center part. And so this antenna does look to be totally okay. I'm going to grab the U.F.L. here and give it a little bit of a tug, and that seems to be fine. So this antenna might be okay. I'm not going to throw this antenna away. The head of the antenna, it's hard to see. This antenna has seen some shit. But it doesn't look that bad. It's definitely been in the propellers before, which is never good for it. But don't throw it away. Don't throw away your antenna yet. Save it, because the VTX might be the problem. Now I'm going to take a look at this U.F.L. port. And it looks totally fine. Let me just brush it down a little bit. It's super dirty. When I was flying this thing, I went into the on-screen display and I turned the power up. I also turned the power down, and it made no difference whatsoever. That's the first thing that you want to do, is go into the VTX table in the OSD and boost the power up and down to see if that has any effect. When that doesn't have an effect, usually that means that it's the antenna. You're pushing more power into the antenna, but the antenna is not really doing anything. It's not antennaing. And so that's usually a bit of a giveaway. Not always, though. If whatever boosts the power on this thing is on its way out, that could be the problem as well. Everything looks totally fine here. And so the signal is getting in here fine. And so we know that either the antenna or the VTX is done. At this point, change the antenna. And just go put another battery up in the air. You don't have to, like, you can kind of like half-ass put it back together if you want. Like, at this point, you're taking a big guess, because it could absolutely be this VTX. I have a funny feeling it is this VTX, but it's kind of silly to not swap the antenna out. All I'm into this so far is 8 screws and 1 zip tie and a couple minutes, right? This is a very quick troubleshoot. And so take advantage of that. If I have to pull this VTX, it's a lot more work. I'm moving wires around. I'm potentially soldering. I'm probably pulling this ESC up because I got the wires going underneath it. Because I never buy these TBS VTXs because I've had such bad luck with them. And so, yeah, at this point, what I'm going to do is just throw another antenna at it. We'll see how it is. And if this does not fix the issue, we've isolated it to the VTX. I'm looking for a right-hand circular polarized U.F.L. antenna with a somewhat short cable on it in my little box O antennas here. That's left hand. Here's a right hand. Here's the exact same antenna, but not all beat to absolute death. This is a True RC. This is True RC's cheaper antennas. I forget what they're called. Yeah. So I'm not even going to. I'm not going to protect this antenna like this one is. I'm just going to throw it on here, and because I can do that after the fact. I can protect that after. What I am going to do though is beef up this little joint here. This is a really common failure point on these U.F.L. antennas right here at the jib jab. And so what you want to do is just put a little piece of shrink wrap there. So grab a really small piece of shrimp. Do I not have any in here? No, I don't. This is like my scrap shrink wrap bin. get in there, you bastard. All right, so grab your little kit of shrink wrap, and you're probably going to get the smallest or second smallest size. Oh man, I'm running out. These are going to be too small. This will work. This size will work. And so you're just going to cut a little tiny piece of it. About that long. Like that. And actually, I'm going to put this into the little shrink wrap bin that I always check first. There it is. So yeah, tiny little piece. If it's big enough to go over the head of the U.F.L., great. I usually use a size that's not, because the head of the U.F.L. is pretty big, but then this wire is pretty skinny here. Sorry guys, I keep holding this shit too far forward. Oh, it's because the camera's all janked the fuck up. There we go. That's better. That's much better. Yeah, if you use a size that's a little bit too small, you can stretch it out, and then it'll grab onto this U.F.L. a little bit better. The way that you stretch it out is with a pair of needle nose pliers. You can usually stretch these to about twice their size. Make sure you rotate it. Stretch it a little bit, rotate it, stretch it, rotate it, stretch it. You can usually stretch them more than you would think. You're going to rip a couple of them, that's okay. And now, it's big enough to go over there, but it'll shrink back down beyond where it was before. Like there's no penalty for stretching it out like that. So it'll grab the actual U.F.L. wire even better because I used a smaller size. And so it just makes that little joint there. I should have actually I should have made it a little bit longer. I cut this one a little too short, but that's okay. Just something, just anything to beef up that little joint between the two of them because it's really weak there. And then the other thing that you want to do is either E6000 the antenna down here, or use something. You got to use something to hold the U.F.L. down to the to where you're plugging it into. Otherwise, it will absolutely pop off. If you do those things, I've actually had better luck with U.F.L. than MMCX. But you got to do those couple of things. You gotta put a little tiny piece of shrink wrap there, and then you gotta use something to hold this U.F.L. down. And then the last thing that you want to do is what you want to do no matter what with antennas, which is to secure the I'll show you in a second. Hold on. Let's just get this down here. And then we'll put these screws in. This is my favorite part about TBS VTXs. And they don't have this on all their VTXs. It might just be on this one. But this is just such a great little idea. They just put a couple holes in the PCB, and then they're threaded, and then these screws just hold the U.F.L. down. Really slick. All right. So now we don't have to worry about the U.F.L. coming unplugged. It also kind of keeps it from rotating too much. And so now the most important thing of keeping your antennas healthy is to never, ever, ever let the antenna pull on this. You need to mount this antenna in a way that you have a little bit of slack here. But the most important thing is that you need to run a mount like this, which will grab the antenna. See how I'm slotting the antenna cable into this, and then I'm going to put two zip ties here so that this 3D printed piece is what's holding on to this wire. I can't, when I crash through Scraggle and shit, there's going to be a stick that grabs the head of this antenna and pulls it really hard. When that force gets applied, that force needs to get absorbed here, not here. Same goes for MMCX. This is the most important thing. This is the only way to have your antennas not rip your VTX to shreds. So find an antenna mount like this one. I am going to be selling this exact mount on my Etsy store at some point here. If you want it, just order one of the This will be a $5 print. So order any of the $5 prints and then just in the notes say, yo, I want that 5-inch antenna holder that you were showing on the stream. And then you grab a couple zip ties. You put one way, you put the other one the other way. You pull these bitches really hard. Even though I'm not sure this antenna is the problem, zip ties are cheap. And so you pull this guy really hard. I usually pull him to the point where the zip tie breaks, to be honest. And then I like to put one in the opposite direction. I don't know why. It's just a thing that I do. You can also like put one so that the little joint is on the opposite side. All right, like that. And then grab this hard as shit. And so now that 3D print is really grabbing on to that antenna. So if the head of this antenna gets pulled, it'll never rip this off. It'll actually rip the head off the antenna first. One of the other things that you can do to help the lifespan of the antennas, I did it to this one, is you put another piece of shrink wrap up here. What I really like to do is I run a bead of E6000 in here between the head and the wire, and then I put shrink wrap over it. I already have this thing plugged in, so I can't do that. In order to do that, you have to, little shrink wrap, it's big enough for this, still stretch it out. I kind of wish I'd done that to this antenna, but whatever, these antennas are cheap, and I actually think that this VTX is the problem, but I will know next time I fly this thing. I can't really test this like now because even without an antenna, you'll get totally fine video out to like maybe 50 feet or so. So yeah, I need to literally wait until I fly this thing again to check if that worked. But yeah, there you go. Signal strength issues. That's how you troubleshoot them. Don't skip a step. With how often we kill antennas and with how quickly they are to replace, if you're having signal strength problems, you kind of could just swap the antenna out first, but at least take that step back and think about it for a minute and like fly another rig to make sure it's not your goggles. There's a couple things that are even quicker than what we just did. And so do those things first and just, thinking about it and not just jumping to conclusions and going, oh, my VTX is blown up. That's going to be really, really important for all of your troubleshooting that you do. It's always really tempting to like just think you know exactly what it is and not actually give any thought to the full system, right, that's going on. And that's how you waste a bunch of time and money. That is a really good way to waste a bunch of time chasing nonsense. And in the process of chasing nonsense, it's easy to spend a bunch of money on stuff that's not broken. So don't do that. Couple of screws, and in theory, this thing might be all better now. I doubt it, but you never know. I am going to put one piece of shrink wrap over the head of this antenna just because it's kind of like a brittle plastic, and like I don't want to smack this thing into something and just blow that antenna up immediately. It's a cheap antenna, it's not a free antenna. So yeah, there is shrink wrap that is a shrink ratio of 2-to-1. There's other shrink wrap that's a shrink ratio of 3-to-1. The 3-to-1 stuff is usually thicker. And so it'll say on it shrink ratio. And see, this is shrink ratio 3-to-1 here. This is the thicker stuff, and this is the stuff that I use to try to beef these guys up. I'm going to use clear so that we can still see that it says LHCP. This is not big enough. Well, looks like I've run out of clear. That's not going to be big enough. Well, Hold on. I have some extra shrink wrap up on top here that's too big to fit into there. So, is it this stuff? Is this stuff big enough? I think this is maybe big enough. Nope, not quite. Oh, hell, did I run out of the shrink wrap that I usually use for this? What the hell? Looks like I might have. Well, alright, so I'll use the 2-to-1 stuff that I've got in here. And it's going to be one of these, isn't it? This it? Okay. This is the stuff that I usually use. It's kind of close enough, but not quite. I am still going to have to stretch this out. With the thicker shrink wrap, cut it with scissors. Don't do this little number where you chop it on this side and then chop it on the other side. You'll give it a weak point and it'll rip at that weak point when you're trying to stretch it. So cut it with something that'll cut straight across in one hit. And okay. So now we are going to have to stretch this just a little bit because the heads of these antennas are gigantic. It becomes a little bit harder to stretch these with these tiny little pliers. I need to get a bigger set of these pliers, but I think I can get just enough. Put it up towards the tips. Have a little stretch here. Turn it. You'll see what I mean when I tell you to turn it. Like you can see where you stretched it. And then also I like to flip it like this on these big ones to stretch both sides. Okay. All right, that should be big enough to get over the top of this antenna. Yep. And see, so what I'll do is I'll run it pretty much over the entire head of the antenna. It doesn't... So these antenna heads have a cap either on the top or on the bottom. Look for where the seam is. This antenna, it's 2 pieces of plastic. They're all 2 pieces of plastic. And the seam is up here. If the seam was on the bottom, I would need to put this thing all the way down like that, because that seam is what will usually break. In this case, I don't really need to do that, so I can run it up here a little bit like this. And don't get these too hot. Be very gentle and slow with the heat, because the antenna head is made out of plastic, and you can easily melt it, and that can screw up the antenna. So use as little heat as you possibly can. This is actually a good scenario for using a heat gun, but just don't get the heat gun too close. I did it with this stupid little torch. I just kept it like about that far away. I kept it pretty fucking far away. And I was just patient, and it shrunk it down. And so now, not only is the cap of this antenna not going to explode off the first time I hit something, but the outside is now like a little bit rubberized. So any slams this thing takes, it's going to absorb it instead of just shattering the clear plastic on here. If you really wanted to go for it, you could now take another layer and put a second layer onto here. Don't go too crazy though, because it is an antenna. They've designed this antenna to not have shrink wrap over it. The more shit you put on the outside of the antenna, the more it's gonna shift the tuning of the antenna, and that could be bad. So put as little as you can, but if you're breaking them a lot, you know, feel free to put a second layer on there. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't have much of an effect. And that, my friends, is how you troubleshoot and hopefully fix a signal strength issue. The antenna is up at like a 45-degree angle here, so that when I'm flying forward, it's basically straight up, and it's hopefully the highest point up above the battery. That's how you get good signal strength. It's also relatively far away from the propellers. It is probably just about long enough. Yeah, it can technically get into the props if it's just perfectly wrong and it bends all the way over, but it's going to just bend itself right back out of the way. This is how I've mounted antennas forever, and it works extremely well. This little 3D printed mount is awesome. It works with all different width standoffs too, because it's a little bit gummy. So there you go. This thing might be better. It might still be effed. I'll fly it probably next week. The more concerning issue is with this guy, and and it just has no video, which almost certainly means that the camera, that the VTX has completely shit the bed. So, light goes into the lens of the camera. It hits the sensor. The sensor turns it into ones and zeros, sends it down a wire to the flight controller. The flight controller takes that video and it puts a layer of OSD on top. This is not a camera problem because it's just a black screen. If it was a camera problem, the OSD layer would still be there, right? But it's not. It's just a black screen. It's maybe not a VTX issue either, though, because if the VTX was like not powering on, or if it was like all the way dead, you would have static instead of a black screen. When I power this quad up, the goggles go from static, which is there's no signal being sent through the air whatsoever, to a black screen. So, we've ruled out the camera. We've ruled out the wire between the camera and the flight controller. We've ruled out the trace between the video in pad and the OSD chip. What we can't rule out is the OSD chip. If the OSD chip has failed, it might not be sending any video down the wire through the trace to the video out pad and then down the video out wire to the VTX. That wire could be the problem, that trace could be the problem, or the VTX could be the problem. You guys see what I'm getting at here? When I'm telling you that you have to take that step back and think about the whole system. There's a bunch of links in that chain, and if you just immediately blame the VTX here and buy a brand new VTX and take all the time that is involved with swapping out the VTX and nothing changes because it was the wire between the flight controller and the VTX, or it was the trace, or it was the OSD chip itself, right? Like, you just wasted a whole bunch of time and money. So don't do that. Just relax when these things blow up. Think about it like kind of holistically. And then what you can do is you can attack the things that are easier or cheaper, right? And so in my case, last night when I was at Patrick's, I pulled the top plate off. And, well, so first off, with a black screen issue, cycle the power. Any video system problems, always cycle the power first, because it just these things suck. And sometimes they just act stupid. And so always cycle the power first when you're getting any of these issues. This is not a problem in, like, I couldn't go into the OSD and change the output power because I had no video whatsoever. I had no OSD either, right? So I can't get in there. So the issue is not necessarily the camera. It could be the camera. The camera could have died, but we don't know that yet because we just have black video. And so the issue is also not the antenna. If the antenna was broken, you would have like static, right? So the antenna is completely fine in theory. It's going to be either the VTX itself, the wire, or the OSD chip on the flight controller. And so the first thing I did last night is I took a pair of tweezers and I just made sure that the plug going into the Immersion RC Tramp was fully seated, and it certainly seemed like it was. I've got the video line running under the ESC, and so the it's not easy for me to check that wire, unfortunately. But that wire is probably not the issue. There's kind of no reason that wire would have just shit its pants at random like this. So it's probably a VTX issue, to be really honest with you. Analog VTXs are just, they're just kind of all garbage. And none of them really last all that long. And so what I'm going to do here, the easiest possible thing for me to troubleshoot here is going to be the VTX. I have extras of these VTXs, so I'm going to just unplug this antenna, swap this VTX because it's on a plug header, and we're going to see if we get video. Although, what I am going to do real quick is hook a battery up to this and make sure that miraculously the problem hasn't fixed itself. Because that's a thing that quads do. So we've got static, right? Oh. We've also got a light on the VTX. We've got a red light on the VTX. Why is it still static, though? Hold on. Let me grab a pair of goggles. All right. Goggles are on. Let me do that again. Where the hell's the... Ah! Okay. Okay, there we go. So black screen. So we no longer have static. We've just got a black screen. I hope maybe you guys got a black screen that time. Let me do this the safe way. Don't do what I just did. Oh, wait, no, the props are off. We're good. I thought I'd left the props on. Hey, as a reminder, CiottiFPV.com is my website. Go there and click some buttons and send me some money, and I'll keep doing this forever. What do you think of that? I do need your guys' support. With the economy being grenaded, I'm losing patrons. So if you got a couple extra dollars, if you have, you think that I've earned a couple of bucks a month, join my Patreon, and we will keep hanging out. So again, quickest and easiest thing for me to do here is swap this VTX out. If this build had the VTX like buried somewhere, I would maybe think about pulling up the ESC and checking that wire that's running underneath it. I would certainly not blame the flight controller first and foremost, because you've got all these other wires hooked up to the flight controller, and that's just like always going to be more work. And so in a case like this, where there's not like a clear, it's one or the other that you can gather, to me, go for the easier shit first. Also, VTXs will die orders of magnitude more frequently than OSD chips on flight controllers. I have absolutely had OSD chips die on flight controllers. I'm not saying that they don't break. They absolutely do. But if you go through 10 VTXs, you might go through one OSD chip. Like it's that drastic. So play the odds and attack the VTX first, in my opinion. This VHB is hanging on for dear life. There we go. Okay. Gentle so I don't yank on these wires. Flip it upside down here to get at the little latch on the bottom of this plug. Push the latch in. Give it a little wiggle. Come on now. Do it like this. Nope. These are the wrong ones. This is what I want. Always be way more gentle than you think you need to with these 30 gauge wires. They're just so fragile. So I'm hitting the latch. Come on now. Unplug, you bastard. Dude, come on. There we go. All right. This is an Immersion RC Tramp. It's the best VTX that I've ever found. But they still do break. As you're about to see, I think. hopefully I do have an extra. I had a bunch of extras at one point. So I should have at least another couple. Unfortunately, they do not make this anymore. You cannot buy immersion RC tramps. Yeah, I have a bunch. All right, so here's another one. So just for the sake of testing, right, we're just going to hook this up, slap the plug on, and put power to it. No need to shrimp wrap it or make it all neat and tidy. You do want to make sure that it's not like touching anything conductive like carbon fiber. But if you can just like hover it up above, you can then give it a shot. Of course, make sure that the plug is all the way plugged in. Okay, good. Plug is all the way plugged in. I could technically fire this up with no antenna hooked up to it, but no reason to do that. It's going to put stress on it. Don't do that. All right, so we're sitting it up. It's kind of floating here. Nothing's touching anything conductive. All right, so, but I am going to use the smoke stopper here, just in case that VTX shifts. In theory, the smoke stopper will cut the power quick enough. So, let's see if it was the VTX. Plugging in power and pushing the button. Damn it. I was really hoping that that would fix it. So I've got a red light on the VTX. I'm going to check in my Fat Sharks. Oh, no, that's interesting. I don't just have a black screen now. I've got weird, like, scrolling nonsense. So I'm going to power it off, static. I'm going to power it back on. Black screen. Same black screen. Yeah, weird, like, interference lines. That's strange. Let me mess with the plug a little bit here. Oh, interesting. As I mess with this plug, it changes the behavior. It changes the weird... I don't know why the VTX hooked up to the computer is not picking this up. But, yeah, I've got more than just a black screen. Oh, that's weird. Let me try one more thing, which is another one of these immersion RC tramps, just for the sake of, like, totally ruling out, because sometimes I'll put shit back that's that I suspect is still good, but it won't still be good. One of the other things we're going to check here is the voltage coming into this, but let's just do this first. Yeah. All right. Okay, so that one was messed up. This is not going to fix it, but it's worth a shot. Just, you know, that VTX that I just pulled out was not fresh in the package, right? Like, if you buy a replacement piece and then you hook it up, you're a lot safer than where I'm at here. I've had this happen before where I've put something away that was actually blown up. Okay, so I see a little bit of a problem. The white wire is starting to pop out of the plug header. The white wire usually doesn't carry video, but still, no reason to not fix this right now. So let me just come in here. I'm just going to grab the white wire and push it back on in. And hopefully I can feel it click. Yeah, there it is. So now it's reseated. Well, at this point, I'm going to check the yellow wire. Usually the yellow wire is the video wire, and that one's seated in there properly. You can feel it. Might as well check them all. Red, black. Okay. They're all seated in there properly now. All right, so let's see. I really doubt that had anything to do with it, but you never know. Putting on Fat Sharks to see if I can see that weird interference pattern again. Yeah, there's that weird interference pattern. Interesting. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to push on the flight controller. I did this last night. If that OSD chip is starting to like come unsoldered, sometimes you can tell. Yeah, okay. So when I push on this flight controller, things happen, which is not a good sign. I think this is a flight controller issue. I mean, it kind of has to be. It's either that or it's the wire, right? So that sucks a big bag of donkeys. One thing I am going to try. This rig has a little microphone on it here. A little external microphone. I've had these microphones die. And when they die, they're an open circuit. And they cause all kinds of weird shit to happen. And I don't use the onboard audio from these anymore. I never really did in the first place. It was one of these like, oh, Steele Davis does it, so it must be smart. And then it's just silly. So I'm gonna take this out. Oh, it looks like it looks like this is being driven off of the green wire from the VTX. So, yeah, I'm going to remove this. Kick this soldering iron back on because I'm going to do it properly. The green wire is fine. I can just kind of well, no, I might as well remove the green wire too while I'm in here. Let's do it properly. I got to wait for the soldering iron to come up to temp anyway. Okay, I don't even think the HD0 goggles pull the audio in from the... maybe they do. I don't know. Come on. Oh man, this VHB. Old VHB that's been under VTXs and had heat cycles. Good God, man. It is such stubborn stuff. It's a good thing, though. It's a good problem to have. Okay. So, that's all cleaned off. That's up here. And, okay, let me just take a look at this guy. What do I got this? Wrapped under here. And here's the power. Okay, so the power cables are hooked up right there. I thought that was them, but I just wanted to double check it. So let's pull those off. Get off of there, you bastards. Okay. So, well, those two guys just bridged together, so let's just fix that. Heat them both up and flick outwards. Gotta do it one more time. And I can't see what the hell I'm doing. Hold on, let me get some glasses on because I'm elderly now. All right, let's hit this with those two pads are firmly welded together. So we're going to clean the tip real good. We're going to come here at a really extreme angle so that we can heat both pads up at once. And then we're going to flick outwards, and now we're good. Come back in, little tiny solder ball here. Let's just pick it up with the tip of the soldering iron. Got it. And then we'll just clean these pads up real quick. Okay, cool. Probably never use those pads again. All right, let's see if that fixed it. I'm going to put the original VTX back in. Man, I bet you that just fixed the issue. Maybe not, because the that would have... This thing still flew, so the receiver was still fine. And I don't think that would have been the case there. I think that would have kept the receiver from powering on too. But it's worth a shot. This plug header is a little bit broken here. Hang on. Pretty sure this original VTX that was in here is completely fine, although now I just broke that plastic. That's okay. Not the end of the world. All right, there we are. That guy's back on there. Get this antenna plugged in real quick. And let's just see what's going on here. There we go. All right, not touching anything important. These two power leads are on. The green audio cable is still hooked up, but I can pull that out of the cable there, out of the plug header. All right, so we're gonna apply power, and now we've got that same red light. Oh, now it's a flashing red light. Oh no, it just flashed a couple times. Still a black screen. Okay, so that wasn't the issue. Let me again just push down on this flight controller a little bit. Yeah, okay. I'm tempted to try one of the other VTXs. It makes a lot of sense right now, since I have this all pulled apart like this, to try one of the other VTXs, because there's no reason that two things can't break at the same time. And so it's a quick and easy thing for me to do right now, so I'm just going to grab one of these other ones. Real quick, plug it in. Because there's a chance that when with something weird happened on the flight controller, like a voltage spike or something like that, and it could have taken two things at once. See? Boom. Done. Plug power back in. Just check it real fast. Okay. Goggles on. Nothing. Okay. Yep, same black screen. Okay. So the VTX is fine. The something's going on with this flight controller, or the wire between the connector and the AIO. So I don't need these. I don't need these in theory. Put these back in my little VTX box here. And so this guy's fine. I am going to pull this green wire out of this plug header because I'm not using it anymore. And then I'm going to pick up this ESC. Well, you know, I don't really need to do that because I can see where the yellow wire is going here. Yeah. I mean, at this point, it pretty much has to be the flight controller. Because if this wire was broken, we would, like, well, I'll pull on just that wire in a second. This is the game, dude. This is the game of, like, never rule something out. As soon as you rule something out, that's going to be the thing that gets you. So, real quick, let me just get this green audio wire out of here. There we go. I'm not going to put this mic back on. It's just one more thing to fail. All right, perfect. So green wire has been removed. Now I can pull that through. Okay, cool. And I'm just throwing these away. I just don't want anything to do with them. They have bitten me in the ass too many times. Okay, so now I'm going to grab just the yellow wire, and I'm going to just give that a little bit of a tug here. And yeah, it feels fine. The yellow wire is not broken under there. It's nice and strong. You don't want to yank on it, but yeah, no, it's fine. So yeah, I got to put a new flight controller into this. At this point, what you can do is jump the camera video out directly to the... just for the sake of art. What time is it? It's 9:04. At this point, what I should do is take the I have to do this anyway. Hold on. Let's just do it real quick. Again, we know that the camera is fine. We don't know that the camera is fine, but the camera is probably fine because we didn't have any OSD elements. If the camera was the problem, we would have had black video but OSD on top. The problem is either the OSD chip itself or the trace between the OSD chip and the video out pad. I can see the video out pad here. That pad is not lifted. It's where the yellow cable is connected, and I was just yanking on the yellow cable. And so the pad is actually fine, but either the trace is broken or the OSD chip is fucked. What has probably happened, because I've seen this happen before, is the one of the legs on the OSD chip has become desoldered, basically. I'm going to have to desolder everything. So what I'm going to do is desolder the camera yellow wire from this pad here, and I'm just going to tack it onto the video out pad real quick here. And then we'll have video, but we will not have any OSD. At that point, you could use the OSD. These cameras do have a little OSD on them, but you'll never be able to get into the Betaflight menu. It's, you know, like that'll get you through the weekend, but then when you come home, you're going to fix it properly, because having working OSD is, proper OSD is really important and really, really nice. So really quickly, just to myth bust this, I will remove this. Come on now. So this is the video in pad. What the hell? What happens when you don't use flux? Ends up taking you twice as long because you can't get it done. Alright, so video in wire from the camera. And we're just going to move this over to the video out pad going to the VTX. I didn't even get it on there. That's a really shitty solder joint, but whatever. It's on there and it's not bridging to anything else. And so now I would definitely do this with the smoke stopper at this point. And we will have video. What? Oh. There's no VTX on it. I was like, wait, now I have all static. How the fuck does that work? Gotta put a VTX on there. Okay. Real quick here. Let's get this guy on there. Okay, that's plugged in. And antenna snapped on. Nothing looking weird. Okay. Bing, bang, boom. You're fired, Bob. There you go. That sucks, dude. God damn it. Well, man, this is an Acon flight controller too. So you could try to like reflow. You know what? I'm gonna. Patrick has a hot air station. I'm just gonna like give him this flight controller and be like, here, dude, if you can get it working again. But he's basically gonna try to reflow the OSD chip. The problem is almost certainly the OSD chip on this thing, which is a super bummer. But that's 5-inch life. Every single thing that can possibly break will break way more often than you think it should or ever could, because we hammer these things into stuff at 1,000,000 miles an hour over and over and over again. Let me quickly just pick up this flight controller and we can... I mean, I guess there's a chance that the OSD chip will be like on fire, but it won't be. I hate when that happens. Unscrew the little nuts too much and they stick in inside the driver. So here's what the OSD... Whoa! Why is it all... Okay. It might have actually caught on fire. So the OSD chip is the rectangular one. It's kind of the second biggest chip on the board. It's the one that's obviously rectangular, though. You'll always be able to see it. And what the hell is that discoloration on it? I've never seen one do that. I've only ever seen one of the million little legs on here just kind of pop off. So that's a little weird. It kind of doesn't matter. Oh, look at that. Is that a solder ball down there? Hold on. There's something going on. Oh, look at that. So, you guys aren't... you might be able to see it. Hold on. There used to be... Oh, you're still on there. There used to be a little capacitor down there. Look where the capacitor has gone. Holy shit, how hard do you have to hit for that to happen? See it? What the hell? Well, I mean... let me put the 5X loop in my eyeball here. And let me just see real quick. Can I get that guy off of there? Ooh, this is rough. Hold on, let's use some flux. The flight controller might not work without that capacitor, or it might. Let's see here. How the fuck did this happen, yo? Okay, I got it off. I'm going to try to get it put back where it belongs. Boy, is that hard, though, with these little tiny capacitors without a hot air station. Oh, shit, I almost have it. Woo! I'm shaking like a motherfucker. Hold on. Let me get some fine-tipped tweezers in the game here. I'm going to try to just get it lined up, and then I'm just going to hit it with a big old ball of solder. Okay. All right. It's in position. So I'm going to pick up a blob of solder and try to not hit the thing. The solder's not sticking to the tip of the iron, which means that the tip of the iron has oxidized. Clean it off, and that will fix that issue. Okay, there we go. That's an awful big blob of solder. It's too big. It's too big. I need just a little bit. There we go. That should be enough. I'm shaking too much. All right, hold on. I need to get into a better position to do this. So we're going to move the work around. Actually move it over to the left here. Yeah, okay. And then I'm going to get this into a better position here. Okay, now I can hold this. All right, so I'm going to sit my hand down nice and flat on the table. Clean the shit out of the tip of the soldering iron. Get a little bit of solder over here. Ready to go. All right. 5X loop in my eyeball. Let's give this a shot. Pick up a little blob. Okay, there we go. Yep, perfect size blob of solder. There we go. Yep, there's one side. There's the other side. Holy shit. And the little OSD legs look kind of okay. I'll let you know in a second. So, wow, that's wild. Okay. All right, so I now need to desolder the turn the soldering iron back on. I need to desolder the camera wire from where I just put it a minute ago. So let me just do that real quick. Whew, man, that is small shit. I usually don't even bother doing that stuff because it's just too small. That was something else. All right, so we're going to put this back on the VID pad. I'm totally willing to do this work on this flight controller because it's an Acon flight controller. All right, I got to plug this back in so that the flight controller gets power from the ESC. Bunch of soldering tips in there for you guys if you were paying attention there. See how I put my wrist down on the desk here because I was shaking too much. I took a step back. I relaxed for a minute. Breathe. Move the work around. Get the work into a better, more comfortable position. The main thing is getting bone support. The main thing is getting like a part of your bony ass body down on the table. All right, let's see. I can't believe the flight controller didn't blow up from that. Come on, baby. Oh, shit, son. How you like me now, motherfuckers? Holy shit. Wow. How the hell did that happen? How the hell did that capacitor break off and solder itself to two of the legs of the OSD chip? That's fucked. That's insane. That doesn't make any sense. I've been doing this for 10 years. And I've never seen one that weird. I've never... Yeah, that's the weirdest I've ever seen. That makes no sense. The fact that that capacitor didn't just go into outer space, right? Like, it came off of there. It broke off of there. How did it break? Like, did it break off, bounce off the bottom carbon fiber, and then slam into the legs of the OSD chip? That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Wow. Okay. I don't know what to say. I'm relatively speechless that A, I was able to fix that, but B, that's what the problem was. That's just wild. What the hell, dude? The chances of that happening are just insane. And I mean, the rig was flying totally fine. I flew it at Patrick's not too long ago, and it was completely fine. I don't remember there being a crash where that happened. It must have, though. There must have been a crash where that happened. That's insane. Wowee. Whatever. We got it. We've figured it out and fixed it. So, right, we took that big step back. We isolated that it was either the VTX, the wire to the flight controller, or the flight controller itself. We fixed the easy thing first, which was the VTX, because I had an extra one. And you're gonna blow up VTXs anyway. So if you're gonna buy something to go after this troubleshoot, buy another VTX. You're gonna need it, right? Swap that in. Didn't change anything. Check the wire, and then it becomes the flight controller. At that point, if you haven't taken that step back, and if you haven't thought to yourself, lens, sensor, camera, wire, pad, trace, OSD chip, trace, pad, right? If you haven't done that and you just replace the VTX and it's broken, the wire's fine, you rip the flight controller out and you throw it away, this is probably like an $80 flight controller nowadays. You could waste that flight controller because we looked at that pad, we moved that video into the other pad, and then we got the video, so we isolated, cool, camera is good. And then just physically looked at the OSD chip. You know what the OSD chip looks like. Physically look at it. It's got all those little legs. Sometimes, the previous time that an OSD chip died, you could literally see that one of the legs had lifted up. I was able to get that leg soldered back down, and it still didn't fix it. But look at it. You know, if you don't have a 5X loop by now, you got to get one of these. Although I was able to see that with my 44-year-old eyeballs. I wouldn't have been able to do that work without the 5X loop, though. So, there you go. I'll be damned. Let me get caught up on chat, and then we will all enjoy the rest of our Friday nights. Howdy Newbie 1290 says, how much modification would it take to get the Nano 3 camera into the Mobuloa frame with my Betaflight AIO from Meteor 75? I don't know what the Mobuloa frame is, but the frame really has nothing to do with it. The camera is going to mount in the canopy, and the Runcam Nano 3 is specifically meant for the Mobula 6 canopy. So, yeah. The problem you're going to have with that setup, if your setup is from a Meteor 75, it probably has an external VTX. So you're going to have to like VHB double-sided tape that VTX to either the top or the bottom of the AIO, because the Mobula 6 canopy is not designed to hold a VTX. So other than that, though, it's going to be easy. The Runcam Nano 3 is specifically designed for the Mobula 6 canopy. And the Mobula 6 canopy looks like this. And see this little bracket here? This little bracket and these two screws, the two conical headed screws, go through those, in through the camera, into the bracket. So yeah, super easy. And then you'll have the most durable canopy setup, which is pretty lightweight because the Runcam Nano 3 is super lightweight. Sunny Days Footage 38 says, I saw you had Newbie Drone 804 motors in your store. I'm curious to your input on those motors. I was super surprised at how well the Ackerby 75 flew. Since then, I've frame swapped it, Mobula 7 V3 frame, Gemfan biblades, and major improvement. The Newbie Drone 804s are an interesting motor. I don't like motors that are that tall. I prefer motors that are a ratio of 3 millimeters to 1 millimeter. The 804 is a ratio of 2 to 1. For me, the way that I fly, those motors get really hot. If you cruise around and just use full throttle real sparingly, 804s will work for you, and those motors will make a shitload of power. But for me, I dig into the throttle more, and a motor that's that tall and not wide enough is going to get too hot and overheat. But I was actually really impressed when Newbie Drone sent me the Acro BV4, I guess is where those motors came. I was pretty surprised at how well that thing flew. But I know motors, and I know that they're not going to work properly for the way that I fly when I fly hard. So I pulled them off and swapped them out with something else. The other problem with those 804s is they only have a 1mm motor shaft, I believe, and that's a little bit weak, and I crash all the time. So again, they're more of like a cruising kind of motor. The End of the Trouble says, "What is this shrink wrap you speak of? Is it better than shrimp wrap?" It's not. It's the PETA has gotten involved, and we can't get shrimp wrap anymore, so we have to use this basic bitch ass shrink wrap. It sucks. Darby says, "Yo, what's good? Tapping in here from Orlando. Thanks for everything you do for the community. Thank you for supporting me, hanging out, watching it, clicking the thumbs up, maybe going over to CiottiFPV.com, buying something for my Etsy store, maybe join the Patreon. Lots of ways you can support me, but you guys just hanging out does help for sure." And, you know, I started doing this because I wanted to get all this knowledge out of my head and into the heads of as many people as possible. So literally, you guys just soaking up some of this knowledge is super awesome. Phil Bradley says, "I had black screen and did similar work through, was convinced it was the VTX as no OSD, but it turned out to be the camera on my rig." That's really weird. The camera failing should not go full black screen. There should always be that layer of OSD. That's weird. Unless the camera failed as like an open circuit, and then that made the flight controller not the main reason that I removed that microphone is that I've had those microphones go open circuit in the past when they've broken. And then what a lot of flight controllers will do, what the better flight controllers will do when there's an open circuit like that, is they just won't power anything. The flight controller will power up, but it won't power anything else. And so that no longer powers the VTX in theory, which, right, if your VTX is hooked up to the flight controller. But see, then you wouldn't have a black screen, you would have static. So that's really weird. That's super weird that if the camera died, you wouldn't at least have OSD. That's not how it should work. Whoop Fox says, "Late to the party, was test flying my new build, Mobile 7, 2G4, Tree Toppers, Gemfan 1610. We bleed 450 pack, she's a ripper." Nice. Yeah, the Tree Toppers are pretty gnarly. Apache Smoke says, "Great job, bro. Thank you, dude." Tamava says, "Glad I got to see that live. LOL." Yeah, that's a very weird one. Very, very weird. Frankly, that says, "Board got too hot and the capacitor let loose. Something grouted / shorting and getting hot." Maybe, but how the hell? Like, that was upside down. Those are on the bottom of that board. So how on earth does that capacitor move across the PCB? That's super weird. I guess maybe I crashed it like ass down, like basically like this. That's the only thing I could think makes any sense, is that it hit ass down like this, because that's the only way that capacitor could have went. Actually, no, maybe like this. I guess it crashed like this. And then that's what kept the capacitor stuck to the bottom of the flight controller. And then it popped off and smacked into the... That's crazy. Crazy. It makes no sense. Second Runtime says, "What's your opinion on the AIO-15 as a backyard ripper?" I'm not an HD0 guy, but if you are, that's cool. The AIO-15 is amazing because it'll do 2S, and 2S is the jam for flying tiny whoops outside the house. So yeah, for me, it's analog. Analog is cheaper, more durable, more available, and so for me, it's Happy Model X12s with BT 3.0, and away we go. 1102s, those will be good. Just get 18,000 kV 1102s and then motor limit them down to like 80%. BT3, great. Mobile 7 V3, great. one of sub 250's frames. I don't know much about them, but also have you tried 98A TPU on the lightweight BeeEye? I haven't. I have Sane Smart. I believe it's 95. Yeah, 95A. I don't have a ton of it. So Apache Smoke says you can show the frame, and happy to see T Hobby reached out to you. So here's the super secret frame, only available in China, that Apache Smoke got to see when he was visiting T Hobby. This is aluminum, but 3D printed aluminum. I believe that process is called sintering. Very, very cool. Probably will explode in a crash, though. You never know. Typically, aluminum is not used in frame designs. Phil Bradley says, my camera was a split nano, had a million wires. Don't know if that was the reason new cameras sorted out the black screen. That's wild. Goated04 with the last comment of the live stream. It says, I had to step out for a moment. Did you get a chance to see my question about what gauge wire for 0702 windings? I have straight shafts, but lots of vibration. There is a Facebook group. I've never gotten into winding, hand winding motors, but there is a Facebook group for it. Shit, what's it called? Hand wound FPV motors. Maybe that'll find it. And then let's sort by groups. Balls. Let's just search for FPV motors. Let's search for wound. Oh, no, that's wound. How about hand wound? Hand wound. Come on! Ugh, it's all just wound stuff. Hand wound motor. Hey! We're getting closer. We're getting closer. Just groups. Oh, for fuck's sake. Anybody in chat remember the name of the group? Dude, come on. Oh, I know how to find it. Hold on. If I go here and then I go to all my groups, I'm a member of the group, so now I can search groups. And if I search for motor, come on now, really? Stop finding wound. I don't need wound care. See all groups, and then I'll do this with a Command F. But I gotta scroll to the bottom because Facebook is the goddamn worst. Maybe that's enough. Command F, motor. A Whoop micro drone motor rewinding group. There's a link in the chat, but if you search Facebook for this right here, you'll find it. These are going to be the guys to ask. Howdy Newbie says, CO3 camera is what comes with the Meteor 75 Pro, and it's a 5-in-1 board. I opened it up, and there are no holes in this camera. Yeah, the CO3 camera, you're going to have to... there is a 3D printed adapter available to make the CO3 camera work in the Mobula 6 canopy, or in your previous comment, you'd mentioned the Runcam Nano 3. So I guess you're going to switch the camera out. But yeah, you can make the CO3 work in that canopy, or you can switch over to a Runcam Nano 3. Cool. Thanks for hanging, friends. If you like this kind of stuff, support me, and I'll keep doing it. CiottiFPV.com. Patreon helps me out the absolute most, but lots of other ways that you can keep me doing this. Be good. I'll see you guys on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Right? Hold on. Let me check to make sure I don't have anything. I booked 2 gigs today. One of them is on New Year's Eve, though. I charged them fucking double for New Year's Eve work. calendar for Sunday. I think I'm clear. Yeah, we're clear. Cool. Be good friends. Thanks for hanging. Here comes some more. Oh, wait. Yeah, let me play something. That's the Bing Bong. What can I play for? Oh. Yeah. 2S 75 millimeter 04 rig. I think I flew a battery or two on this. Railing around Patrick's spot. I'm sure that Oh, yeah, okay. Those of you that hung around are gonna get a little treat. Yeah. Check this out. This is super cool. I might do an entire live stream about this. Our buddy Seneca brought his RC cars, and I chased them around a little bit, and it was incredibly fun to chase an off-road RC car. You're going to want to stick around for this for a minute. Here. We'll play more of this flight footage on Sunday stream. Love you, bye!